Ah, 996 million, 997 million, 998 million. Oh, pardon me. I didn't see you there. I didn't know anyone else was here. I thought I was alone. I snuck off to the library to count my riches, as you can see. But now that you're here, I suppose you want to talk about books? That is why you came here, isn't it? To the library to talk about books? Well, I suppose I could take a break from counting all my money and indulge you. You seem like the intellectual type. So yes, let's talk about books. Yeah. Hello and welcome back, or welcome to my channel if you are new here. I hope you guys enjoyed that little intro. I figured since it's Halloween, I'd dress the part of Mr. Green. You guys are gonna have to bear with me. I am not taking this mustache off because I imagine that it's probably gonna be pretty difficult because it is on here pretty tight. So I know that taking it off, I am probably going to have a very raw and red upper lip. So I'm not going to put myself through that pain. I will wait until after I'm finished filming this to deal with that. So yeah, enjoy me with a mustache for the next however many minutes this video is. I asked you guys on Sprints if you all wanted to see a TBR like wish list kind of video, and the reason why it's like more like a wish list is because the way to get a Clue Readathon is set up, we don't know what the prompts are going to be, we don't know when they're going to drop, and we also don't know how much time we're going to have in between the drops. So with that being said, I don't actually know what books I'm realistically going to be able to read based on what the prompts are and how much time I have to read the books. So this is more so a list of books that I would like to read in the month of November. It is by no means a list of books that I will actually be reading. Some of them, I would say at least like 2 or 3 of them are books that I definitely do plan on reading, but everything else is kind of like, we'll see how it goes. So I asked you guys if you wanted to see that on Sprints. You guys said yes, and so here we are. What I did not ask you is if you wanted to see this video with me dressed up with a mustache and Harry Potter glasses. Just consider that an extra little bonus. You're welcome. So the first book on this list is a book that I have had probably for over a year now. It's been on my physical TBR for quite some time. I have heard pretty good things about this book. I would say pretty consistently. People have really enjoyed this book. It's a thriller, and the host of the Get a Clue Readathon, Rainy herself, said that this would count as a green book, and that is Varity by Colleen Hoover. I've heard that it's a really good thriller. I believe this is Colleen Hoover's first attempt at a thriller, I believe. So I think it's pretty good that it's gotten as good of reviews as it's gotten, given the fact that this is her first book in that genre. It says, Lowen Ashley is a struggling writer on the brink of financial ruin when she accepts the job offer of a lifetime. Jeremy Crawford, husband of the best-selling author Varity Crawford, has hired Lowen to complete the remaining books in a successful series his injured wife is unable to finish. Lowen arrives at the Crawford home, ready to sort through years of Verity's notes and outlines, hoping to find enough material to get her started. What Lowen doesn't expect is to uncover in the chaotic office is an unfinished autobiography Varity never intended for anyone to read. Page after page of bone-chilling admissions, including Verity's recollection of the night her family was forever altered. Lowen decides to keep the manuscript hidden from Jeremy, knowing its contents could devastate the already grieving father, but as Lowen's feelings for Jeremy begin to intensify, she recognizes all the ways she could benefit if he were to read his wife's words. After all, no matter how devoted Jeremy is to his injured wife, a truth this horrifying will make it impossible for him to continue loving her. So yeah, I've heard really good things about this, so I'm excited to get to this. This is one of the books that I definitely think I will be reading. I'm really hoping that this, out of all the books on the list, this is like one of the 3 like I definitely want to get to. The next book is also a book that I've had on my TBR for quite some time. I'm not sure if I've had it on my physical TBR since last year, but I've had it on my physical TBR for a while. And it's a book that I definitely want to get to. It's one of the 3 that I absolutely want to read this month. I'm hoping that I have the time and that it fits a prompt. And that is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, I believe, are the authors of this book. I don't remember what this book is about. I think it has something to do with like gods and like angels or something, and like the end of the world and the apocalypse or something like that. I don't really remember. I will read the actual synopsis for you since I did a terrible job of describing what this book is about. And it says, according to the nice and accurate prophecies of Agnes Nutter, the world's only completely accurate book of prophecies, written in 1655 before she exploded. Oh, okay. The world will end on Saturday. Next Saturday, in fact. Just before dinner. Oh, that's unfortunate. So the armies of good and evil are amassing, Atlantis is rising, frogs are falling, tempers are flaring. Everything appears to be going according to the divine plan, except a somewhat fussy angel and a fast-living demon, both of whom have lived amongst Earth's mortals since the beginning and have grown rather fond of the lifestyle. are not actually looking forward to the coming rapture. And someone seems to have misplaced the Antichrist. So yeah, that sounds really crazy and chaotic, so I'm very interested to see. I've never really read a book with like gods and stuff in it, unless it was like Greek mythology. Outside of like Greek mythology, I've never read any kind of books that have to do with like gods and demons and angels and stuff like that. So I think that this is supposed to also be like a humorous book as well. And I think this may have also been adapted into like a show or a movie or something at some point. So I definitely want to check that out after I read this. Good Omens and Varity are 5-star predictions for 2023 for me. So that will count towards one of the reading prompts for the Get a Clue Readathon for the green team, as well as it also will count towards some prompts for Danny Dabble's Bucketlist-athon. I'm also participating in that readathon as well, and there's a prompt that says read a book from your physical TBR, so both of those books are on my physical TBR. And there's also a prompt that says read a book from your 2023 must-read list, and since both of those were 5-star predictions for me, they are obviously must-reads for the year. So yeah, that'll definitely check off those 2 boxes for that readathon. The next book is Calvary Road by Roy Hession. Now, this is a book that I definitely want to read. One of my goals for 2023 that I set for myself back in either the beginning of this year or maybe even the end of last year was that I wanted to read 2 Christian books. And so far, I have not read any, which is really sad that we're almost at the end of the year and I haven't picked up a single like dedicated Christian book. So this will count towards that. This book says Roy Hession profiles the nature of religious revival and lays out the prerequisites and consequences of the activity of God in the heart of the hungry seeker. So this is a pretty short book. This is a book that we're also reading for my Bible study group, but I'm definitely looking forward to finally being able to make progress towards this goal. The next book on my wish list for November is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Now, this has been a book that I've wanted to read ever since I found out that it was a book. I really enjoyed the series, except for the season finale. I think the season finale was hot garbage, but everything up to that part was great. And I know that the book is different from the show. My understanding is that it's pretty drastically different from what I've heard people say, but I'm okay with that because I know that Haunting of Hill House is one of those like classic horror books that people, you know, it clearly has made a name for itself for a reason, and so I definitely want to check this out. I've never read anything by this author. I actually had made my TBR for either September or October, and The Haunting of Hill House was supposed to have been on that, but I didn't get to it. So I definitely want to kind of make up for that and read that in the month of November. This one says, the haunting 4 seekers have come to the ugly abandoned old mansion. Mr. Montago, an occult scholar looking for solid evidence of the psychic phenomena called haunting. Theodora, his lovely and lighthearted assistant, Eleanor, the lonely homeless girl well acquainted with poltergeists, and Luke, the adventurous future heir of Hill House. At first their stay seems destined to be merely a spooky encounter with inexplicable noises and self-closing doors. But Hill House is gathering its power and will soon choose one of them to make its own. Ooh, okay. Yeah, it definitely sounds different. The premise itself sounds very different than the premise from the show, but I'm still excited for it nonetheless. So the next one I'm not going to say too much about, just for the sake of like trigger warnings. I don't really know a whole lot about this book, and so I don't want to say anything that is going to potentially, you know, trigger someone. So I'm going to keep this one kind of brief. It is I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. Like I said, I don't know anything about this book, but this is a book that I heard, I think Gabby Reeds maybe talked about this book a while back, and it was a book that sounded interesting when she was describing it, and so I put it on my TBR. So I'm going to kind of skip around a little bit in the synopsis, just again for the sake of trying to avoid any potential triggers for people. It says, in this smart and intense literary suspense novel, Ian Reid explores the depths of the human psyche, questioning consciousness, free will, the value of relationships, fear, and the limitations of solitude. Tense, gripping, and atmospheric, I'm Thinking of Ending Things pulls you in from the very first page and never lets you go. So yeah, this sounds very interesting. I don't know if this is going to be like a little more like the philosophical side of things, or if it's going to be more like storytelling. I really don't know what to expect going into this, but it's definitely piqued my interest. The next one is one that I'm sure a lot of people are hoping to get to in the month of November, and it is none other than Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros, which is the sequel to Fourth Wing, which was the book that took the world by storm back in, what was it, like May or June, when that book was like all over everything everywhere. So yes, the sequel to that comes out in November, so I'm sure a lot of people will be reading this book. I'm not going to go into a synopsis of it because I don't want to spoil anything from the first book in case you haven't read the first book. I would say that if you have already read the first book, then you probably already know what the second book is about, so you don't need me to explain it. And if you haven't read the first book, then you wouldn't want me to explain what the second book is about because, again, like I said, it probably would spoil things from the first book. So I will leave it to you to go check that out on your own, but that is a book that I'm excited to read because I know that it's going to be like very talked about in the month of November. I'm sure it'll be like super hyped up the way that Fourth Wing was. The question is, will it live up to the hype? The next book is a book that will definitely count towards the Get a Clue Readathon, if for no other reason other than the fact that it is one of the host's favorites, and that is You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. I am not going to attempt to say the name of the author because I know that I'm just going to butcher it, so we're just going to skip right over that. You guys can see the name on the cover, but this is actually Meredith's pick as a host. Meredith is my co-host for Team Mr. Green. I'm going to pull up the synopsis. I'm going to say Faye, but I'm pretty sure that's probably not right. But it says, Faye Adicola wants to learn how to be alive again. It's been 5 years since the accident that killed the love of her life, and she's almost a new person now. An artist with her own studio and sharing a brownstone apartment with her ride-or-die best friend Joy, who insists it's time for her to ease back into the dating scene. Faye isn't ready for anything serious, but a steamy encounter at a rooftop party cascades into a whirlwind summer she could have never imagined. A luxury trip to the tropical islands, decadent meals in the glamorous home of a celebrity chef, and a major curator who wants to launch her art career. She's even started dating the perfect guy, but their new relationship might be sabotaged before it has a chance by the overwhelming desire she feels every time she locks eyes with the one person who is most definitely off limits, his father. Can she release her past and honor her grief while still embracing her future? And of course, there's the biggest question of all, how far is she willing to go for a second chance at love? So this sounds interesting, maybe inspiring a little bit, also messy a little bit. I imagine it's going to be a little bit steamy, maybe some romance, maybe some smut, I'm not really sure. But yeah, it sounds really interesting. So thank you, Meredith, for putting this on this list. The next book on the list is one that, again, will count towards the Mr. Green specific prompts, because one of our prompts is to read a book with money on the cover. And for this prompt, I would ideally like to read the book called Money by Jacob Goldstein. Now, this book, just reading the synopsis, it definitely was very interesting. I'm very curious to see what this author has to say. This book is basically about how money is made up and it's not real, and it only has purpose because we give it purpose, not because it actually has any real purpose or importance. But the synopsis says, money only works because we all agree to believe in it. In Money, Jacob Goldstein shows you how money is a useful fiction that has shaped societies for thousands of years, from the rise of coins in ancient Greece to the first stock market in Amsterdam to the emergence of shadow banking in the 21st century. At the heart of the story are the world leaders who reimagined money. John Law, a professional gambler and convicted murderer, brought modern money to France and destroyed the country's economy. The Cyberpunks, a group of radical libertarian computer programmers, paved the way for Bitcoin. One thing they all realized, what counts as money and what doesn't, is the result of choices we make, and those choices have profound effect on who gets more stuff and who gets less, who gets to take risks when times are good, and who gets screwed when things are bad. Before I even started working in finance, I had an interest in it just for like personal, knowledge. And so this book I think is going to be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to reading this. The next book that I would like to read for the month of November is The Spare Room by Andrea Bartz, and this is another kind of thriller, I believe, mystery or something along those lines. It says, Kelly's new life in Philadelphia has turned into a nightmare. She's friendless and jobless, and the lockdown has trapped her in a tiny apartment with the man she gave up everything for, who just called off their wedding. The only bright spot is her newly rekindled friendship with her childhood friend Sabrina, now a glamorous best-selling author with a handsome, high-powered husband. When Sabrina and Nathan offer Kelly an escape hatch, volunteering the spare room of their remote Virginia mansion, she jumps at the chance to run away from her old life. There, Kelly secretly finds herself falling for both her enchanting host, until one night, a wild and unexpected threesome leads the couple to open their marriage for her. At first, Kelly loves being a part of this risque new world, but when she discovers that the last woman they invited into their marriage is missing, she starts to wonder if they could be dangerous and if she might be next. So yeah, that sounds really interesting. I didn't realize this was like a threesome open marriage thing. I don't even remember that being part of the synopsis. But the idea that the last person that was a part of this went missing, I'm here for it. And last but certainly not least, the final book on this list is The Royal Holiday by Jasmine Guillory. And this is a book that I actually wanted to read last year for Christmas, around that Christmassy kind of season or whatever. And I didn't get around to it, so I'm hoping that this year I'll be able to make up for that. And I figure, November is in between October, which is spooky season, and December, which is Christmas season. So I figure you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do with November. It's kind of a free-for-all since it's in the middle there. So I'm going to try to read a little bit of spooky horror stuff, and I'm going to try to read a little bit of, cutesy holiday stuff as well. So this book says, Vivian Forrest has been out of the country a grand total of 1 time. So when she gets the chance to tag along on her daughter Maddie's work trip to England to style a royal family member, she can't refuse. She's excited to spend the holidays taking in the magnificent British sights, but what she doesn't expect is become instantly attracted to a certain private security, his charming accent and unyielding formality. He is intrigued by Vivian the moment he meets her and finds himself making excuses just to spend time with her. When flirtatious banter turns into a kiss under the mistletoe, things snowball into a full-on fling. Despite a ticking timer on their holiday romance, they are completely fine with ending their short, steamy affair come the new year. Or are they? I was hoping that maybe the ballroom prompt for the Get a Clue Readathon might involve something to do with royalty, and so since this takes place, like he's the private security for the former queen at this point, you know, I thought that, you know, can maybe fit that prompt, but we'll see. Also, this cover is green, so it could also work for that prompt as well. So I have some options of what I could do. This is my first time doing any kind of readathon where you don't know what the prompts are ahead of time. So I'm very interested to see how this is going to go for me, for the team, for the overall group that's participating. Yeah, if you're not already signed up, be sure to do that. Also, one other readathon that I'm also going to be participating in, Ashley from Books to Ashes is doing a readathon as well. It's kind of like a dragon themed readathon. I believe this first go round, the theme is How to Train Your Dragon. I will also link her channel and link the readathon like announcement video down below. And so what is the book that I said that I wanted to read for this? Oh, Iron Flame, that's what it was. Iron Flame is the book that I plan on reading for that, because the prompt is you have to read a book with dragons in it. So that is the goal. With all the prompts and stuff dropping for the Get a Clue Readathon, I don't know if I'll be able to read Iron Flame because of just how long it is and how much time it's going to take me to read that book. So I do have some backup dragon books. I will have all of the readathons that I plan on participating in for the month of November linked down below in the description, along with all of my socials and links. You guys can follow me there. As always, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you are not already subscribed. I'd love to have you as part of the group. Comment down below if you have read any of these books or if you are participating in any readathons. Let me know what readathons you're participating in and what's on your TBR. Oh, and would you look at the time? I'm actually supposed to be meeting up with the gang in the lounge this evening. I'm gonna have a nice, relaxing evening. What could possibly go wrong?